To the best of OTR. I got to admit, I love shooting these openings because it means that we're off doing something else instead of working. And you should love them too because they mean the show coming up is guaranteed to be great. Today, one-on-one with Chris Jericho. We had to bring this one back because it's amazing, filled with the kind of inside info you get no place else. I say, bring it on.
Off the Record with Michael Landsberg is brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends, see you tonight.
It's all about access. That's why we get guests on Off the Record. The WWF wants to give the fans a feel of what the guys are like, and that's what this is. This is the road to WrestleMania 18 and fan access as we get ready for WrestleMania 18. So, what's the deal? Have you changed? You a big shot now that you're wearing the belt?
I don't know much of a big shot I am, but I look at you throwing punches that Paul Stanley kind of...
Don't be scared.
The opening? Man, if I could only be as much of a big shot as that. I wish I had my own cold opening like that.
Well,
who's changed, Landsberg? Who's the real prima donna now?
I think you're the real prima donna right from the start.
Since I met you,
Chris
exactly.
Jericho, nice to see you.
As always a pleasure.
So how cool is this for you, as a Canadian, to be returning to your country, because you live in the States most of the time right now, as the champion of the WWF for WrestleMania at Skydome?
Well, not to sound too schmaltzy, but when I first became a wrestling fan, I always wanted to be in WrestleMania. I always wanted to be the champion. Now I get to go into WrestleMania as a champion in Canada, in my home country. So, I mean, it's a dream come true. It's the pinnacle of my career, and all my goals have been accomplished with
pretty
this
young, though, to have
Sunday.
the pinnacle of your career, right? Are we waiting for a retirement announcement then?
Well,
so I've done it all now, and I can turn it over to the next.
Exactly. But after 12 years of pulse pounding, sweat, blood, tears, the whole darn thing, it's a great vindication to have this kind of ace in the hole kind of in my pocket.
When did they tell you they were putting the title on you? And of more interest maybe to our fans is, why did they tell you they were putting the title on you?
Well, it's kind of funny with the Chris Jericho story in the WWF is I'm always the last to know. No one ever tells me anything. No one ever really talks to me about things like that. And actually, Steve Austin told me about 2 weeks before the Vengeance pay-per-view in December 9th, that was the plan. Took me aside and told me that. And so, of course, always taking everything with a grain of salt that you hear because things change on a hourly, minutely basis. I never really took any of it to heart until it finally happened. In my mind, I wasn't going to actually expect it until the bell rang and I had it.
And that was against Austin, right, that you took the title. Were you more nervous for that match than you would be for a normal one?
Not really, no, because the thing was it was 2 matches back-to-back. I worked 20 minutes against The Rock, then 50 minutes against Austin, so it wasn't really time to be nervous. It was just a matter of holding everything together and wrestling two awesome workers within the course of, like I said, 40 minutes back-to-back and not blowing up, not getting tired, and keeping my mind straight to keep everything going.
Now, though, as the guy with the belt, you're working with the best, right? You're working with the top line, the A card, with The Rock and with Stone Cold and with all of those guys. Is that any different than working with the guys in the mid card? And how is it different?
Well, if anything, there's just more pressure. All eyes are on you because when you get to this position of being the champion, of being the #1 guy in the company, everybody's out to get you, Nobody wants
for real,
to,
right?
For real,
I mean,
for real.
One of the things
I'm not
we're
saying
doing in
I'm
this interview. This is.
I'm not saying
real.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'll take you anytime, any place, brother. I'm saying literally everyone's out to get you. Everyone wants to knock you off the pedestal in real life. So if you do 99 things right but one thing wrong, all the buzzards are going to hone in on that one thing you did wrong and try and use it against you and try and use it to help to knock you off the pedestal, so to speak. So there's a lot of pressure, and working your way up in the WWF is very difficult, but when you've actually made it and you're on top, it's even worse because all the sharks are out for you, man.
So you do feel that then? I'm not going to ask you to say who it is that you feel it from because you're not going to tell me that anyway. But it's like in any business, right? They love you when you're in the middle and you're not a threat, but now you're a threat, and you feel a difference between the way they looked at you a year ago and the way they look at you now?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I was speaking with Pat Patterson the other day, and he gave me a really interesting quote. He said, a lot of guys help you out when you're on your way up. They want to help you out. It's the right thing to do. Once you get up to that position, those same guys want to help you come back down again. And that really is the truth. And are
you getting the respect in the locker room that the champion has traditionally gotten? Because even as you look at WrestleMania 18, the biggest match on the card is not the title match, which is very unusual. So do you feel like you're getting the respect you should?
In a lot of ways, no. I don't feel that. Not necessarily from the boys' end, but from the management end. And I think that's just part of the rites of passage. It's the first time I've been the champion. I was speaking with Kurt Angle. He said the same thing happened to him the first time he was the champion. But I don't really get that sort of confidence. You know, the confidence that I have in myself and that a lot of the boys in the locker room have, that the fans have. I don't really get that from the upper echelon.
Can you have real friends? Not so much at the bottom of the roster, but with the guys that are at the top of the roster. Is that even a realistic hope?
Well, I mean, in this business, you never really know who your real friends are anyways. But there's guys that I speak to, confidants, that are at the top of the top. And they're guys that I would consider to be maybe not true blue, die-for-me friends, but guys that I could give some opinions, get some solid advice from.
Chris, I'm looking at you sitting here, and I'm thinking the one thing that you have to be protective of, and the one thing you're vulnerable to, is losing perspective on your life. You're the champion right now, and everybody loves a champion, but that could and maybe very well be taken away from you on Sunday. How prepared are you to go back to a different spot on the roster?
Well, I mean, the business is so crazy because it always goes up and down. I mean, and the cream always rises to the top. If you're one of the best in the world, as the champion, and even as Chris Jericho, not saying this in an egotistical way, but I'm one of the best in the world. And not too many guys can do what I can do. Half a dozen other guys in the WWF, and that's it. So I might be the champion today. I might not have it tomorrow or next week or next year. I might have it, but it really doesn't make a difference. It's still, I have to do the same job with the championship or without it.
Chris, there's no question on this set, I'm calling the shots, right?
Possibly, if I allow you to.
Yeah, this is leading somewhere, though. But what a lot of folks don't know, unless you know wrestling intimately, is that shots are actually being called in the ring, right? You are wrestling against Stone Cold Steve Austin of The Rock. It's like a dance. Someone is calling the moves. When you're in with those guys, you and Stone Cold, who leads?
It's kind of a half and half thing, you know. That's one thing. A lot of the misperception is that people say, "Oh, wow, you guys have a script and you follow it and you go practice." I mean, we have no time to go practice the match move for move, nor can you remember that. I mean, Steve Austin doesn't remember a lot of stuff, doesn't like to, doesn't want to, and that's why he's where he is. But you have to be able to. You said it's like a dance in some ways, but it's also I liken it to improv comedy. You have to be able to roll with the punches, go with a swerve. Something happens over here, you go over here. Something happens over there, you go over there. A lot of guys, especially a lot of the young guys, call everything back in the dressing room, and that's a problem. When you come out into the ring, if you forget one little thing, the chain can be broken, and you're left there with your, holding the bag in your hands, not knowing what to do next. And there's nothing worse than that. Some of the best in the world, Ric Flair. There's actually a great, quick Ric Flair story. My favorite match of Ricky Steamboat was Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3. My second favorite was Ricky Steamboat versus Ric Flair in Great American Bash 89. They went 60 minutes. And I asked Ricky Steamboat which was his favorite out of those two. And he said, let me put it to you this way. I worked with Savage. We had a script of 200 moves. We went 22 minutes, and every single move was called. With Flair, all we had was the finish called. We went out there and improv for 60 minutes. Which one do you think was better? That's the answer right there. If you can go out there and call a match 10, 15, 20 minutes, 60 minutes, and have the crowd in the palm of your hand just from improving, ad-libbing, that's what a true professional, great worker is.
This is Chris Jericho. He's got the belt. He sits at the top of his game. We'll talk about revenge because a lot of guys said he was too small, that he would never cut it. We'll talk about those guys and what he's thinking when OTR returns. Stay with us.